I think it's also very important to double tap on two other category of benefits. One of them is compliance. Moving forward, there's going to be a certain expectations from an energy efficiency perspective as it pertains to getting a permit. Homes that are going to be built, they have to follow a strict air sealing requirement. We measure that at ACH at 50 Pascal, air change per hour at 50 Pascal, and there's a number that you need to achieve. For those people that are not familiar with the term ACH is the movement of air, how much air is flowing through the house and how much air is flowing through out of the house and is being replaced by fresh air. And the objective is to try to, within the building science component, keeping all components in mind that are integrated together, is to bring that to as low as possible. So, a typical brand new construction home without an air barrier can have an ACH of, I would say, between 3 and 5.
Sure.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the building code, while it doesn't mandate today, references in Ontario that it kind of expects a house to be around 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5.
So we've certainly showed up to houses where it starts higher, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I would say probably around that neck of the wood. And then, so tell me about the benefits of air barrier as it pertains to that in terms of reducing, and then the longevity of it from an energy efficiency cost saving perspective.
Sure. Yeah, I think you touched on a couple things there. So we talked about really briefly that about 25% of our homes in the last decade roughly have been built to Energy Star. So they would have actually been performing blower door tests and beating some of those requirements that we just talked about. 75% of the buildings entering the market that maybe have never had an eye to air tightness testing. And we're seeing, we joke, it's not a matter of if, but when, mandatory air tightness testing is coming for good reasons. We have climate change goals as a nation, industry goals. And we know, quite frankly, we're able to do this now at scale. There's no reason, Canadians were pretty proud. I think there's 26 U.S. states that now have mandatory blower door testing. We don't want those guys ahead of us. Like states like Texas and Michigan should never be more progressive than us in any.
Considering the fact that it's a Canadian concept to begin with.
That's right.
Is the blower door a Canadian invention? I know building science is a Canadian invention. Is the blower door system within itself is a Canadian invention?
It's kind of like one of those. Like almost like the telephone where there's 2 or 3 people that were working.
Yes or no?
Yes. It's credited to a gentleman who was given the Order of Canada, Harold Orr, who is a Canadian. He is credited as the father of air tightness testing, and the patents from air tightness and blower door are at least partially credited to a Canadian in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. And as the gurus of, as Andy used to say, blower door test is more about keeping buildings dry than about the energy savings that it contributes to. So,
we've known for years that this is the right thing to do. We've had a challenge being able to do it at scale. So that's probably why we haven't mandated it, quite frankly. Right. Now that we have not just our AeroBarrier, but lots of technologies and expertise within the industry to be able to, there's really no excuse to not being able to have some level of consistency from an air tightness perspective on every single house. So we know we're heading in that direction, both from a resiliency, but also an energy side of things. And then to really quick and dirty for your question of, okay, we talk about air changes per hour. I always like to preface, think about them to our audience as a bit of an index. They don't necessarily mean all that much. It's at an exaggerated pressure, but it gives us a chance to really compare one house to the next. So we talked about that building code house being at 3 air changes. If we were able to cut that in half to 1.5 on every house, which kind of gets us to that net zero level, you're looking at anywhere between 15 to 20% savings in gas consumption, assuming you're using natural gas, which is a huge step. It's just that if you look at the energy a house is using and divide it into a pie chart, the biggest slice has always been and remains air tightness. So it's the next one we need to take
15 to 20% off your cost, and so that's incredibly high. It's very hard to find other mechanisms of constructions within the household that can deliver such savings. and it's incredible that you guys have been able to do it, because in new constructions there's very little meat on the bone, right? I mean, they're already going with the condensing furnaces, and there's already R50 or R60 in the attic, and the walls are already at R30, and at minimum they're going with Energy Star vinyl, R34 ER rating, although U value is more important than the ER rating. We'll get into that later. So it's already, there is fair bit of energy efficiency implemented, and you guys come in, here's our system, another 15 to 20% on top, which is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, I would agree. It's like we've been on this progression, every version of the building code we want to improve, and so in the last 15 years, I think the average house energy consumption on houses is basically cut in half, and I think we've taken on and added things that have been the easiest to do as an industry. We added more insulation. We've worked through improving, we're at the 99% efficiency furnaces. There really is no further to go on HVAC and installation that makes any sense. The last two pieces for the industry that we really have to do is get air tightness done once and for all, and maybe start thinking about electrifying in different ways. The two biggest steps builders can make is improve air tightness and maybe switch to a heat pump. Depending on what kind of windows they're using, there might be some room to improve there.